as transparent as every film can seem, it's like there's always sort of like, I guess, corridors within you and different things that you're also facing that sometimes you're deflecting away and showing something else and creating this story.
Hi everyone, I'm Camila Lynch-Griffith, Outreach Coordinator for FilmCo, organizers of the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival, and we are live today with Michael Lees. I have to just do a little bit of housekeeping. We have to shout out our sponsors, Republic Bank, and just to let you guys know a little bit more about Limin Live, this is where we will have short one-on-one chat with creators and film industry professionals about the art, the business, the joys and challenges of working in film and television industry in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as the wider Caribbean. So today, as I said, we are speaking with Michael Lees, and let me just give you a little bit of background about him. He's a Dominican filmmaker and photographer. He attended UNC Chapel Hill, where he spent the first half of his college career studying business, and then switched later on to communications with a focus in media production. In 2020, Michael released his debut documentary, Uncivilized, which led him into the forest of Dominica, where he would face Hurricane Maria alone with a palm leaf and a bamboo hut. The film premiered at the Trinidad and Tobago Film Festival in 2019 and went on to screen at festivals including the Brooklyn Film Festival, the Pan-African Film Festival in LA, and Uncivilized won the Caribbean Spirit Award in 2020 at the Barbados Independent Film Festival. So let me just get Michael to join the live and we will just go ahead and continue speaking, okay? Hi Michael, how are you doing?
Not bad, how are you?
I'm good. Where are you right now? Are you in Dominica or are you someplace else?
I'm in Dominica.
How is everything over there? I mean, I know is it affected by St. Vincent the way how Barbados is?
Not at all, actually. We're sending a lot of water over to St. Vincent and Barbados right now.
Okay. Oh, well, we're doing the same thing. I mean, yeah, we have to help out our Caribbean brothers and sisters in such a crazy time period. So let's just kind of like dive right into the conversation, and I must start with asking you about yourself, meaning are you a disciplined doer or are you a procrastinator?
I would say that the process of making Uncivilized has pushed me a lot further towards being a disciplined doer.
So you were a procrastinator before that?
Yeah, very much so. And I would still say that currently there's aspects of my life that I procrastinate with, and trying to build a truly disciplined life throughout all facets, I think is extremely challenging, but kind of necessary to do the things you want to do.
Yeah, I totally agree. I admire people who have like a strict routine of they get up in the morning, they work out, and they go through their routine. It's my aspiration. I'm working on it. It's my 2021 resolution. So, what 5 films do you think every filmmaker should watch?
All right, let me see. Can I comment this? I just put a post in there in the chat. Some of the ones that came to mind were Enter the Void and Love by Gaspar Noé, Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky, Interstellar by Christopher Nolan, Sherman's March by Ross McElwee, WR Mysteries of the Organism, which is a crazy like documentary and narrative film mishmashed together, and then Extra Giveaway is Westworld, even though the TV show.
The most recent version of the TV show?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm familiar with that one for sure. You tell me why that is a choice for you.
I think there's a common thing throughout a lot of those films that make you question the nature of your own reality and what kind of world it is you're living in. And they find really creative ways to hit that point home so strongly that when you leave, you're kind of left wondering, am I in real life or not?
Yeah, I have to say, I feel like if just adding to what you have said, I feel like Matrix was one of those that kind of
Yeah,
made
for
me feel
sure,
that
for
way
sure,
as
for sure,
well.
for sure, for sure.
It's like, are we in the real world or are we not? And then now, as technology has exploded from since that movie has come out, is even more so asking
Yeah,
that question of yourself. So I agree with your choices. It definitely makes you think a lot about what we're doing with our lives, kind of like our purpose, this whole engine that we're in. I totally get where you're coming from.
yeah.
So I want to know how you switch from studying business to doing media production.
It's a difficult question, but the simple answer is I was in business wanting to also talk about the ethics of business and marketing and media for that instance. The fact that you're learning how to press psychological buttons on people to make them want to buy stuff. But are we going to talk about the ethics behind the pressing of the buttons? And we never got around to there. And I had an entrepreneurship professor who, one, kind of showed me that whatever you like doing, you can make a business out of it. And two, he just brought in the speaker that basically made me realize that if I followed the path I was currently on, I was going to be 40 years old and suicidal and in like a middle marketing job. And she asked, what are you guys going to do to like put your lives on track? And I raised my hand in class and I said, I'm quitting business school. And then from there, I wasn't straight to media. I was thinking about philosophy as well, but there's something about media and communication. Instead of just, I guess, philosophizing, being able to communicate it in the medium of the time.
Wow, that's a massive epiphany. I No, it is because I mean it totally makes sense. With marketing, obviously you are definitely psychologically trying to push buttons to get people to buy stuff
Yeah,
or to do something. And really and truly with the medium, it's definitely about giving a message, making people
yeah,
think.
yeah,
Okay, I feel you. We're on the same
yeah.
wavelength.
Nice.
And then let's talk about like your debut documentary.
Yeah.
Which came first, the idea to live off the grid and in the forest, or the idea to shoot the documentary about living off the grid?
It's so bizarre. I feel like they came almost at the same time. I guess if anything, I guess it would have had to have been living off grid. And just this idea of, I don't know, honestly, they came together. They really did come together. And this is the bizarre thing with this whole project is everything just turned out a way that was outside of my control in many ways and could only have become this film by so many things outside of my control. For instance, my original plan was to go with a group of people, and that did not pan out, but I still decided to stick ahead and to do it. And then, as we might discuss, there was the option to leave for whatever reason. I stayed, and then somehow did not get squashed by this tree that was next to me, and then come out with this story that is bigger than anything I could have tried to write up or dream up myself.
Right. So then why did you feel it was necessary to kind of like go off the grid? I mean, what were you hoping to get out of going off of the grid?
Yeah, I think I was looking for answers both for myself and kind of, as lofty as it sounds, I guess like for our species, trying to figure out basically where, if there's a wrong turn that we took. Like we're at a point where the earth is just dying. And we say the earth a lot of times as if it's something separate to us, but our home is dying, and many of the reasons are because, at least in my mind, it seems like we're never satisfied and we always wanted more. So then my kind of question was, if we can trace our steps back as far as possible, can we see a point where we were satisfied, but just kept wanting more? And to tell you the truth, it's such a tricky situation, because I was saying, even by the time you start making your first simple tools or a fire, that is the beginning of iPhones and combustion engines. So trying to figure out where that line exactly is, where you've gone too far, strayed too far from nature, is really difficult. And I had a talk with someone the other day. He had just watched the film, and one of the things he was saying was he noticed something I said in the beginning was about how we have surplus now, whereas before we would have had scarcity. Now we have surplus, and we have to figure out how to deal with that surplus. And something he was saying was, at first, man, does the wrong thing. I think does the wrong thing, then, or shit, it's the other way around. Something to do with doing the right thing, doing the wrong thing, and then it's only basically after you do the right thing at first because you're told to do it, and then later on you do the wrong thing with free will, and then after you've learned, then you do the right thing. But the problem is, in our situation, by the time we figure out doing the right thing, is what kind of world are we going to have left?
Right. Wow, that's some next level thinking, definitely. So, I mean, obviously, I have seen the film. I've been privileged enough to see the film, and I know that Hurricane Maria happened in the midst of that. What made you decide to stay? Why didn't you go?
Honestly, I think part of it must have been that one, we didn't know it was a Category 5 hurricane. It came up as like a Category 1 or 2 or something. The thing is, it parked off land and then supercharged to Category 5 overnight and then just wreaked havoc. So, I maybe naively thought that I would be able to survive a Cat 1 or 2. And then I think there was another part of it that was like, this is part of what the project is, where I'm talking about living with nature and off of nature, but this is also a part of nature. So to say like, living off of nature is great, and then to just run off when, serious nature comes through.
Right.
Then again, like I said, if it was a Category 5 and I knew that, I think I would just be asking for it. And I think I would just have to say like, this is the limit. And that ended up being a different kind of pivot point for the film.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's brave. Second of all, I mean, I'm just thinking about if I was even in that situation, Category 1, I was like, nope, my commitment is done. I'm leaving, so I commend you for that commitment. I mean, because the end result that you got out of it definitely just kind of shows you how life is just really chaotic.
Yeah.
Like you were thinking along the path of one thing happening after the other. I'm going through this process of living off of the grid and what it was like for ancestors before to just live really simply, and then nature and all of its chaos, and you're like, how did they even do this?
Yeah, it's like it's scripted.
I mean,
it was literally like I'm here trying to live off the land, trying to find this way backwards, and then boom, Maria hits, and everyone is forced to live that way all of a sudden. And it's almost just like everything I've been doing has been prep now for surviving the aftermath of Maria. And then I think one of the questions I saw that is, again, very interesting is just Dominica, to me, becomes a very pivotal character. And seeing, again, resilience is a really overused word, but I think it's an ability to get by with grace through these difficult situations, and also not being so separated from nature and community to be able to know how to draw on those things again when necessary.
Wow. So if you have an opportunity to do it again, would you?
Again, so people ask me that question, and I'd say it's impossible to say. If going back and I thought it was a Category 1, would I probably do it? Yes. If I knew it was a Category 5, I don't think so. But I'm very happy that I had the experience and survived it.
No, well, we were very happy. I have to say that for me, when I looked at the film, what I took away from it definitely is exactly as you said, the resilience. And not just with your experience, but then when you went
back home to find your family and friends, and you're kind of showing what happened in Dominica. Is like, I mean, Mother Nature is definitely a force to be reckoned with, but the community coming together to help each other was the most important part that I took away from everything. And
Yeah.
then we also need to kind of get back to that simpler way of life too, to kind of recenter. And I feel
Yeah.
like those are the things that I took away from your film.
Yeah.
So I just want to know, just kind of like in that experience, there was a lot of truth and vulnerability that you definitely showed in going through that experience. Tell me about how that influences your work.
So I was actually thinking about this recently. The first documentary film that I ever showed was in college, and it was a very personal first-person documentary. And I think that that was sort of like a big turning point for me, and being able to show so much there has then made it easier to do, like, to keep this practice of being open. And yet at the same time, as transparent as every film can seem, it's like there's always sort of like, I guess, corridors within you and different things that you're also facing that sometimes you're deflecting away and showing something else and creating this story. So it's such an interesting sort of back and forth between you, like, self and truth and story. But
I like that. I like that. I'm gonna remember that as a quote. Definitely, it definitely is that. I think a lot of people don't understand when you're creating, whether it's a documentary or a narrative film, pieces of yourself go into it. It might be a characteristic about a character, or it might be the experience that you're going through in the documentary, but it's definitely pieces of yourself, and it's very cathartic in getting a deeper look into who you are. So I'm going to remember that quote. And I'll say Michael Lees gave me this quote. So I know Dominica is definitely very much close to your heart, and you draw a lot of inspiration from your home.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me how else does that also influence your work and helps motivate you to go forward?
I think as you mentioned, it's not maybe just Dominica. I think especially Dominica, but throughout the Caribbean, I think still having that sense of community, still being blessed with an extremely, as harsh of a terrain as it can be, also extremely lush and giving. I think it's really important for us to somehow hold on to these things and cherish these things, especially as, like, the march of development is always on its way, and it's always come in different forms with different promises. And I'm not saying that we should not be open to these things, but just trying to always find our way back to our core, that, for instance, community and nature are two of the most fundamental things that we really need to get through. Dominica specifically, like I said, yes. So it's both the people and the nature here, I guess, that does it for me. And again, just like everywhere in the Caribbean, it's not a perfect place. It's so interesting, so many times foreigners that come here and fall completely in love with it and don't know about its dark side, just like every country has a dark side. But I still absolutely love it. And yeah, I think essentially is always going to be my muse and inspiration for everything I'm writing and doing.
So, I mean, obviously, as we are speaking about Dominica, I mean, you explore themes of nature, connection, development. How do you put that into your work?
Well, I think I try to do part of that in Uncivilized, asking this question about progress and development and which way is forwards, because that is a really difficult question. And I think, honestly, I don't have answers. Each time it's just a question leading to more questions, which can be really, not helpful sometimes, because at some point it's like someone needs to take some kind of action, and if all you have is questions, what do you really do? I don't know. I guess you keep asking questions and let intuition guide from there.
So wow. So then what projects do you have coming up? What do you have in the works? Is it other
Uh,
documentaries? Are you going to venture into the narratives?
yeah, so I really want to venture into narrative. There's a couple different things on the horizon that I don't want to speak too much of before
Mhm.
they happen, but also a screenplay that I'm trying to write, and it expounds on all those same ideas that we talked about, but maybe just a little bit further in the future. And I'm sorry I can't say too much more.
So no documentaries or anything like that?
Um, Actually, yes, there's another one that again has just popped up. I don't really know what it's about yet, but for instance, my dad's friend, one of his good friends, just died recently, and he wrote a poem for him, and it got me thinking about how my parents or my dad is at a point where, he's going to start losing friends, and it'll be his time soon, and thinking about loss coming forward with me. And then I have friends who are just starting families, and other friends whose a parent passed recently. And so I just decided to interview him and try to figure out his take on everything, and to see, maybe do this project extended over time. And again, like I said, I don't know yet quite what I'm trying to get at, but it's something to do with the full cycle of life, of birth, death, and everything in between, from a perspective.
So do you feel like COVID would probably have like a little bit in that conversation? I mean, I feel like the pandemic has kind of forced the world to like stop, and a lot of things that we've kind of like been brushing aside or brushing past, you have to take stock of it at this particular point in time. So do you think that that would play any part in any of your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I don't know specifically if it's gonna play in, but kind of what happened with COVID is very similar to what happened to us in Maria, of just like
Yeah.
putting everything on pause. There are people, loved ones lost, and then there is more time spent not sort of doing things, but just spending time with loved ones. Um, and I think my dad also had a cousin who passed from COVID. So I guess, it's death is on the mind. Death is on the mind, but not in a gloomy way, really. Just trying to figure out what this whole circle is about.
Yeah, I think people feel like this is me being very philosophical at this point, but I feel like people think death is the end, and I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't.
So
I
it's,
honestly,
it's like
I
that's full of life, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And honestly, I used to be terrified by the idea that death was the end. Now I'm trying to get over my fear that it can go on forever, because there's going to be pain and pleasure along the way, and they're going to be magnified and manifold in whatever different sort of versions of life that continue on. So as the sort of like Buddhist approach is non-attachment. So indifference to both suffering and pleasure, because once you hold on to one, you're holding on to the other. How do you move through calmly and serenely through the ups and downs of life, and maybe afterlife?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the next level. Well, we could have this conversation for forever and a day, because I have like my own ideas, and I feel like you and I are kind of like on the same wave with certain
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But I really appreciate the fact that you took the time out to have this conversation and kind of share like your perspective on how you approach, filmmaking, and looking at it from definitely putting parts of yourself into the work. and then putting parts of yourself into the work, it allows people to see the humanity and to also maybe look into themselves. And I think that that's great work that filmmakers definitely need to do, and more filmmakers in the Caribbean definitely need to push past, you know, sometimes the facades that we all walk around with, and just be okay with being vulnerable and putting that part of ourselves out there, because that's how you get connection and that's how you get community. I really, really, really appreciate that you took the time out to have this conversation with us. Looking forward
really
to any work that you have coming up when you get the opportunity to tell us about it, or if you finally fully develop the idea, shoot us an email. You know, we have your friends over here at TTFF.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is where Uncivilized debuted. So of course.
Yeah. Cool, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like coming back home. So that's good.
Exactly.
So thank you so much. Let me just tell everybody, you know, thanks so much for liming here with me and Michael. And of course, I have to pick up our sponsors, which is Republic Bank, who allowed this to happen. And next week, we'll be liming live with Mariette Montpierre, with Michaela at 5 p.m. right here on our Instagram Live. Thank you so much once again, Michael. See you guys. Bye.